have a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tokimaru and I am here to have a look at The Little Tomb, the Maholova Club, and the Search for a Dead Body. This is a Japanese adventure game? Yeah, let's go with adventure game. A Japanese adventure game by the indie developer CAVYHOUSE, published by Playism. This is a bit of an interesting one. I was intrigued by the theme, and I was pleasantly surprised by what I found. Let's start by jumping into the configuration menu. Ooh, fancy. Unfortunately, the options menu is not as fancy as the name. First of all, we have our sound effect sliders. I will say, I do prefer if the sound options were an actual slider, just because you can get more granular with sliders than you can with just simple pips online, but it's still pretty good. You have sound effects, voice, BGM. This game has full voice acting in Japanese, and the voice acting is very good, I will say. I'll let you listen to it once we get in there. But yes, sliders would be nice. We have camera, inverted camera, camera sensitivity. So this game prefers that you play it with a controller. You may notice that the menu is designed to be used with a controller. However, you can use mouse and keyboard controls. But this game does prefer that you use a controller for it. Camera sensitivity I have all the way up because this game has really, really bad camera sensitivity when you're on controller. Now here, this is a 3D game. I will say this game looks fantastic, but then again, obviously we are year of our Lord 2025. I feel like 3D games should be looking pretty decent, unless you're Nintendo making a Pokemon game. However, for graphics quality options, I think this is okay. You really should have more specific options. You should have things like anti-aliasing. You should have things like general overall graphics, texture quality, all that. You really can't do much with 3 options. Resolution, high, low. No! Where are the resolution options? Give me my specific game. What does this even mean? I don't know what high and low I don't know what high and low resolution even means. What specifically are the resolutions that you're using for high and low? Full screen on and off, that's okay. VSync on and off, brightness, but yeah. The resolution options in this game, graphics and resolution options, absolutely abysmal. They really should have more. Also, I would appreciate an FOV slider. I know this is it is a third-person game. The camera angle is the camera's pretty wide, but I do think just having a slider would be nice. You can never go wrong with like having an FOV slider, and maybe colorblind options while you're at it, but yeah. A little bit disappointing for a 3D game. So let's jump right into a game that I've been playing. I am about... Ignore the actual time that I have on this. What does this say? 1.5 hours? No, that's wrong. I believe that I should be about 2 to 2... I've played about 2 to 2.5 hours. Of this game. It feels like I've just sort of started getting out of the tutorial, or not the tutorial, but like the overall setup for the story and the adventure. But yes, so this is The Little Tomb. You are playing as, also there aren't actually that many controls in this game. These are basically all the controls. You have a zoom, you can hide the controls. You have a camera reset, you have your save button, you have options, and then you just have goals, which I'll get into later. But that's pretty much all the controls you have. The only other control that you're missing is basic interact options. You have like 2 or 3 buttons per thing at most. So this is The Little Tomb. You are playing as a Japanese kofun, which is a large tomb structure in Japan. A lot of this game, so I will say a lot of this game is based off of Japanese history, Japanese culture, Japanese art. I do think that if you either don't know that much about the actual history that's being referenced here, or are not interested in learning about it, and there are points where it like teaches you about specific things. I do think this was targeted at a little bit of a younger audience. If you're not interested in that kind of thing, and if you're not interested in, if you don't already know about it or are not interested in learning, this may not be the game for you, because everything in this game is basically based around Japanese history. For instance, like I said, you're playing as a kofun, which is a giant, these things are usually massive, but you're the little tomb. You're a little kofun. You're playing as a tomb. Your friends, you have a little group of 4 friends. There is a Jomon period dogu there, and 2 different types of haniwa, which are, these are like ancient Japanese artifacts from different periods of time. So if you're not into that sort of thing, this game might not be for you. If you are into that sort of thing, I do think this game is a really good way to learn some new facts. Now, I want to talk about the overall look and performance of this game. I think this game generally looks great. The textures are pretty high quality. I really like the way they actually render your character, where you have these little grass spikes coming out of it. The textures are on all these characters are really good. I love the normals and bump mapping. Ground textures, very nice. Everything in this game generally looks really good. I will say, I'm on a pretty high-end PC. Occasionally, I've been getting frame drops. For instance, you may have noticed occasionally when I zoom in on my character, I do get a few frame drops. And whenever you move in between areas, there's a lot of really obvious pop-in, as well as frame drops. And according to some of the reviews I've seen, it seems that a lot of people have really, really bad performance issues with this game. So keep in mind, if you are interested in this game, your mileage may vary depending how strong of a PC you have. And especially with these abysmal resolution and graphics options. If you are on a lower end PC, this might not be the game for you. I'm not sure. This might be on console. I'm primarily doing this as a PC first look. But yeah, all in all, very beautiful looking game. You'll see some other areas look interesting. We're mostly in city areas. I think this is the only nature areas so far. But yeah. Also, these loading screens are lovely. They just took videos of real life places and inputted their characters. They're really good. I love them. You are playing as a little tomb. The story so far, so this is a very heavily story-based game, so I might not go that deep into the story. I will explain a little bit of the setup though. You are playing as a small kofun who woke up in this little park here. You woke up in this park here, and you spend a few days doing the same thing over and over again because you don't have any memories and you're not sure where to go or what to do. You basically lived your entire life, which is like 2 days in this inside this park, until one day your haniwa enters the park and you quickly become friends. And from there you start going on a little adventure through the city, trying to discover a dead body. Your goal as a kofun is to become, what is this? Oh, weird, okay. Your goal as a kofun, aka a burial ground or a tomb, is to find a dead body that you can bury. Oh my gosh, and all the characters are depicted as like, probably elementary school children. What an amazing setting and setup. So, how does the game play? What is the game like? Well, you walk around, you talk to people, you interact with objects, and you go through the story. There isn't actually that much mechanical depth to the game. It's mostly talking and reading and interacting with objects. I would almost say it's a walking simulator, but there are things that you can discover and find, and this game does a really good job at encouraging you to look around and re-examine things that you've already looked at and try to interact with everything that you can, because the main mechanic of this game is... Oh, it's not gonna show me. Okay, I'm at a point in the game where things get a little bit weird. Let me see. Nope. So I'm like a few in-game days into this game, and some of the descriptions of the things have turned into basically little scary story time things. I'm trying to find a thing that I can actually look at. Yeah, this is all part of the scary story thing. Let me try to pet this cat. Oh wait, this is green now. Nope, that's the same thing. I want to try and show you this thing. But like, so the main mechanic of this game, the way they encourage you to look around and examine things and try to interact with as many of the same things as possible, is that whenever you interact with an object, and it's not working now because I may have done it too much. Whenever you interact with an object, it gives you a... Can I see them here? If you look at the top right corner of my screen, I have 147 act points. Whenever you examine an object, or whenever you interact with an object, so this would be me examining it. I would be looking through the descriptions of things, and this is me interacting with the object. I can do a flip, and this will give me 1 act point. So whenever you interact with something, it'll give you a green dot to basically say, there's a new description here. Because every time you go through a story beat, you get a new description. Like your little guy, whenever you examine something, he has something to say about it. And every time you go through a story beat, it sort of resets the entire playing field. So everything has a new description. So it really encourages you to go back and look at things that you've already looked at. If for either lore or sort of connecting to your character more, or just getting the flavor text, and B, for this game mechanic where you gain act points. I've made so much progress. Yeah, okay, so here's one where it's an actual description. I've seen this description. That's why the speech bubble is grayed out, but you can look at things multiple times and he'll comment like several sentences, and then every time you hit a story beat, it gives you a new description for basically everything. So this game does a really, really good job at encouraging you to go back. And occasionally, you may go back to certain things and discover that there are new things that you can do with old objects, or that you can interact with objects multiple times. For example, okay, so at the beginning of the game, originally, you could only climb up onto this bar and do a spin on this bar. And if you tried to interact with this bar, it would be too high for him. And he would say, oh, I'm not tall enough. If only I could climb up there. But after a while, if you examine it a whole bunch of times in a row, eventually he says, maybe I can practice, or maybe I can learn. And what ends up happening is, so the reason you have the act points is because sometimes it gives you the option to ponder on an object, which allows you to learn a new skill. So for example, this said ponder, I pondered, and then he learned how to jump up and reach this bar. And now, after interacting with it like 10 to 20 times, it finally gave me that option, and I learned how to climb up to this bar and do a flip. This gives me 2 act points. So there are a lot of different things like that. There's another one where he said, maybe I could climb up the slide. And this was after going down the slide like 3 or 4 times. He says, maybe I could go up the slide, and then I have to try to go up the slide. And eventually that helps me learn this rolling technique, which speeds up my movement. Here's another example that I didn't notice before. I think this is new. So now that I've interacted with this for the first time, it gives me an act point. It gives me a new description that I haven't seen before. He's describing something, so I can now draw here.
ここにマホロバクラブのロゴを書いちゃおう。公園に集まるのがもっと楽しくなるよ。
And like I said, this game has full voice acting, only in Japanese, but I do think the voice acting is very, very good. So here's another example where I've gone back to a place I've already been to try and look for new things to discover, and they've given me a new thing for that. So this game does a really good job at making it so that even though a lot of this game so far, I mean, I'm only 2 to 2.5 hours in, a lot of this game so far has been in the same 2 or 3 areas, but it's done a really good job at encouraging me to go back and check everything and see if there are new things I can do or discover. So this was just a small drawing, but occasionally it might give you a skill or it might give you an idea on things. So for example, if you look at my to-do list, this is basically the quest list. So at the very top of our thing is our main quest that we have to do. That's obviously just, you know, what we're doing. Slightly below that, you can also discover items in this game. Let me go do this. You can discover items in this game to put into your collection at your team's hideout. I believe I should go this way. So far, there are only 3 areas that are interconnected, but I'm expecting this game to open up a little bit more. If I go here, so you see I had a little bit of frame dropping and there was some texture popping. It's not too bad, but I have a pretty strong computer. So if you have a lower end PC, you might not be able to run this game as well. But I went here earlier and I found this thing. So you can go back to certain areas or find hidden parts of areas that you've already been in, and you can find objects and you can bring them back to your hideout. Right now I can't actually do this because the person that I need to talk to isn't here. You also see I'm getting a few frame drops as I go really fast through that area. And when you find these secret objects, these collectibles, you can bring them back to your base and add them to your collection. So this is my collection so far. I have a pressed hydrangea, I have a really nice stick, and I have Clunky Super Allied Robo Haniwa, which is basically a brick. And it's really cool because it was just me exploring this area. And I was like, hey, what's over here? Because the story, for the most part, doesn't tell you where you can go. I mean, it tells you a few places you can't go, but other than the main story parts, you do get a chance to explore most of the areas. So for example, they didn't tell me I could or couldn't go to this area with the farm, but I went back here and I went to this box and I discovered the Robo Haniwa. And that was all on my own. It's really cool. They do a really good job at encouraging you to walk through different areas and try to find things. Even though the game is very simple mechanically and you're sort of just going through a story, interacting with objects, talking to people. Yeah. So here is a weird thing about this game. You're not just little freaks. Like, for example, you've only seen these characters so far. We're all a bunch of artifacts and freaks. There are humans in this game. There are a couple of humans in this game. This is one of them. Can I look at you? I'm not sure how much I like them. For me, they're striking a little bit of an uncanny valley because of how realistic the textures are for most of this game. And then there's this guy with big creepy doll eyes. So personally, that's a little bit of a turnoff for me. It's not too big of an issue. It's just a weird, creepy, the humans in this game look kind of creepy. So let's actually continue the story for a little bit because that's basically the only thing. There's not actually that much to this game. It's mostly about the story. The story is going to be mostly you talking to your friends, learning about things you can do. I'm going to mostly skip over this dialogue. just because we don't need to worry about it for this, and I kind of want to get through to it. You have all your friends here. We're going through the story. I'll actually keep quiet for a second so you can hear some of the music in this game and some of the voice acting, because this game, like I said, the voice acting's great, but also the music in this game is really good.
はあ毎度毎度いきなりすぎるんだよお前は何心霊写真
そう、すっごい心霊写真。それを見てしまうと怖すぎてお布団から一歩も出られなくなるという。
布団の中は安全だからなわかるぜしかし俺は記録用のカメラしか持ってねえからな
それでいいよ貸して俺も幽霊の記録してくる
貸せるわけないだろういくらすると思ってんだ
高級カメラなの絶対幽霊撮れるじゃん貸してよ壊さないから
ああもうわかったよ俺のは貸せねえけど使い捨てのカメラ用意してやるから
じゃあそれでいいよあカメラは映っちゃうんですにしてね心霊写真が撮れまくるって噂の
わかったわかったじゃあ明日取りに来い
おっちゃんありがとうよしじゃあ隊員たち秘密基地に集合
So yeah, like I said, the voice acting is very good. The music is very charming. The characters in this game are a lot of fun. They have really good personalities that mesh well together. In terms of story, it's very low to the ground. It's very low to the ground. I'll say realistic. Obviously, the plot of the game is absurd in terms of it being, well, we're working together to look for a dead body to bury inside of you. But for the most part, it's generally a really fun portrayal of just a group of kids out on a little slice of life adventure. It's a very low to the ground slice of life story. I think that if you like a lot of these sort of slice of life kids adventures manga and anime, I think you'll actually really like this story. And we haven't really gotten into it, but there do seem to be some mystery elements, because occasionally through this game, or at 2 or 3 points in this game so far, your character has gotten sort of mysterious flashbacks on their past. Like I said, you don't have any memories, you just sort of spawn in the park one day. So there's sort of this underlying mystery that the characters haven't really gotten to about the identity of your character, and I'm really interested in seeing how they actually get into that. Because so far the story is just, you know, kids having fun, they're going around town, they're sort of learning things, talking to people, discovering things about Japanese culture. It's nice but understated. I'm wondering how far can it carry that kind of story? I think it might. I think it's going to get more I think it's going to get more complex, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be, because I think this game seems to so far be aiming itself at being just sort of a chill time where you can walk around, you know, talk to people, get your skill points, find hidden objects, and just sort of chill out at the end of the day and not have to worry too much about an overly complex action-oriented story. And I think that's great. But yeah, that's basically everything. The only thing I can really show you is just more story. But really, I think it's more fun if you see for yourself, especially if you want to look through all the additional dialogue that you get from clicking on different objects multiple times throughout the game after each and every story beat. I think it's fun just to, you know, read. In a way, it's almost a visual novel. I don't know if you necessarily would say that because it's a 3D game, but yeah, it's a pretty fun, low to the ground, kind of weird and quirky game based on Japanese culture and children in Japan that does, I will reiterate, it does suffer from performance issues, especially on lower end PCs. You have been seeing, I've been getting frame drops and stuttering whenever I'm moving too quickly through the world. But yeah, that has been The Little Tomb, the Maholova Club, and the search for a dead body. It is $11.99 or your regional equivalent on Steam. I have been Tokimaru. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you all next time.